Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, you all are having a wonderful day today. So, when it comes down to it, I thought, of course, that I would talk about this subject in this little video that I found to be very particularly interesting. This is going to be a video by that of Boxing Ego that I want to review. And I could have kind of talked about this subject by myself, but the reason why I also wanted to review that of a Boxing Ego video is to show you once again what he kind of thinks about this fight. And there's a reason why the LDBC and new media, why they're not super stoked on this fight between that on Tyson Fury and Oleksandr Usyk. But we'll talk about that here in a bit. Anyways, for those of you, of course, that have heard the news, Tyson Fury versus Oleksandr Usyk, which was supposed to happen sometime this month, I believe February 17th, probably the biggest fight so far of this year, and one of the bigger fights probably of the past several years. Unfortunately, of course, it has been postponed or canceled, at least at the moment, because Tyson Fury, at least allegedly in sparring, from what we've seen, he suffered a cut, which of course is going to put him on a medical leave and somewhat out of the fight. And of course, there is a certain amount of people asking the question, could this maybe be Tyson Fury using deflecting tactics? Could this maybe be him trying to avoid that of Oleksandr Usyk? Could this be him trying to buy himself more time? And you never know, because this is not the first time that Tyson Fury has pulled out of a fight necessarily. He did do it with Vladimir Klitschko, I believe, several years ago, or 10 years ago, with something, some sort of injury. Now, who knows, overall whether these injuries or some of these things have been, authentic. But there also is possible speculation that Fury maybe is doing this to possibly buy himself a little bit more time. Especially after his most recent performance over that of Francis Ngannou, where he did nearly lose that fight. I had Tyson Fury winning that fight, but only by a point, and I thought that he looked very sloppy and not so good in that fight, and I thought that he looked lost a lot of the times throughout that fight and didn't have many answers. I thought that he definitely did not look his best, in my personal view. And of course, against Oleksandr Usyk, you are going to have to be at your personal best because Oleksandr Usyk is a real deal fighter. He's a guy that, in my view, is one of the top 5 to top 3 pound-for-pound fighters. I think recently I had him at number 3 on my pound-for-pound list. But he's definitely someone that you want to take very seriously. And this is debatably the biggest fight in that of Tyson Fury's career. But the reason why I also wanted to review this video is because even though I'm not necessarily always going to disagree with Boxing Ego's points, you're going to notice that the energy that he puts in this video, that he has nowhere near the same amount of energy for this fight as what he did for other boxing fights. And the reason why the LDBC and new media, the reason why they were so stoked all of a sudden on the heavyweight division, about 5 years ago when Deontay Wilder was at his peak, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere they don't really have any interest in the heavyweight division anymore, and they say that the heavyweight division is whack and nothing has really been going on and all that stuff. The reason why that is because they don't really have a huge interest in this fight between Tyson Fury and Oleksandr Usyk, because they realize that whoever the winner of this fight is, that there's going to be a great debate about them being one of the greatest fighters of all time, which still very much well be deserved in terms of that ranking when it comes down to it, and that if Tyson Fury ends up winning it, or Usyk, that they very well could potentially be the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter. It just is what it is. If Fury ends up winning this fight, there's going to be a certain amount of people that debate him as the debatable greatest heavyweight fighter of all time. Whether you agree with it or not, the LDBC and the media realizes that they're going to hear those arguments, and they don't want to hear that. But they've been in a very deep depression ever since Deontay Wilder got his ass kicked against that of Tyson Fury. Remember, Tyson Fury, they were gassing up Tyson Fury, and overall, they were claiming that, he was the lineal champion, and, him and Deontay Wilder were the 2 best heavyweights in the world. But the reason why they gassed up Tyson Fury so much is because at that current moment in time, the main threat was not Tyson Fury. They thought that he had been off for a little bit too long and that he pretty much was not going to beat Deontay Wilder and that he was somewhat done as a fighter. So then when Tyson Fury did end up whooping Deontay Wilder's ass, then they had to tear down that of Tyson Fury and do damage control. And this is why I keep telling people this. The LDBC and new media, they don't really like a lot of these fighters or any of these fighters overall that are non-black American fighters. They can overall gas up some of these guys like Tyson Fury, David Benavidez, Josh Taylor, some of these other guys, the only one or two reasons why they ever put their name in a good retrospective is either A, to try and tear down a fighter that they know they need to tear down that is the best of their weight division and debatably a top 5 to top 1 pound for pound fighter like that of a Canelo Alvarez or a Tyson Fury or an Oleksandr Usyk or a Lomachenko, and they'll use their name in order to tear down that fighter. Or B, they know that they can try to do it and claim that that fighter is top 10 pound for pound or top 5 pound for pound because they know that a favorite black American fighter of theirs, like Terrence Bud Crawford or another fighter, can probably more than likely whoop their ass, and then they can claim, see, look how dominant he was against that top 5 pound for pound fighter. But I guarantee you, that the LDBC and new media, at least new media, especially from Ego and Dante's Boxing Nation and Aki TV, what we're going to hear is that if Tyson Fury ends up defeating that of Oleksandr Usyk, that, oh, well, he can't be the greatest of all time. Oleksandr Usyk, he can't be, the number 1 pound for pound fighter because Fury was much heavier than that of Oleksandr Usyk. And if he was that much smaller, he wouldn't be that great and all sort of stuff, blah, blah, blah. Even though this stuff never occurred with Deontay Wilder, a guy who hits like a moose and a guy who's 6'7" with an 83-inch arm reach. Never occurred to them with that, when it comes down to it, even though height and reach also is very important. And if Usyk ends up winning it, then they're just going to promote Tyson Fury as a cheater and someone who was never really that great in the first place. And they know that whoever possibly wins this fight, especially if Usyk wins it, that Usyk could potentially be debated as the undisputed number 1 pound for pound fighter. Because then he would also be undisputed in 2 separate weight classes, just like in a way in that of Terrence Bud Crawford. But he would beat an A-grade level fighter that overall was about 60 pounds to 40 pounds heavier than him, depending on how heavy Tyson Fury comes into the fight. So that's why they're not super stoked on this fight. And the energy level for this fight, you're not going to see the LDBC and new media talk too much about this fight because they don't care about this fight. This is pretty much their worst nightmare. The fact that the heavyweight division ended up with the 2 best fighters being Caucasian fighters, this pretty much was in their worst nightmares. So that's the reason why you're not going to see the same amount of motivation from these guys. So once again, I get people on my channel that tell me that, oh, the LDBC and new media, they just tell the truth overall and you don't like it. No, what the LDBC and new media are, what they are really is a pro-black cult when it comes down to it. That pretty much is just like old media. But overall, they're just basically turned in a different way. They go after different fighters and protect different fighters. That's all it is. But anyways, let's see what Boxing Ego has to say. Let's get straight into it.
Good check.
And let me tell you what, just looking at that clip right there, and Tyson Fury, in my view, is a great heavyweight fighter. Let me also state this. I get a certain amount of people, that tell me always that, oh, if Fury was in a different generation, he wouldn't be able to handle the other fighters. He wouldn't be able to handle Riddick Bowe. He wouldn't be able to handle Evander Holyfield or Mike Tyson or some of these other guys. Like, do I believe any of that? No, I don't. The reason why I don't agree with any of that, and the reason why I don't agree with that is because Tyson Fury has already shown me that he's a great fighter. People disagree with him being on my top 10 pound for pound list, especially within my top 5. But at the end of the day, Tyson Fury has shown me that he's a great offensive fighter, that he's a great defensive fighter. Now, at the end of the day, he does get knocked down a little bit too much for my taste. But I don't really think it's because, he's a terrible defensive fighter. I just really think it's because Tyson Fury, that he gets a little bit too overconfident for his own good. Of course, he ended up getting knocked down twice, in 2 of his fights against Deontay Wilder. I think he's gotten knocked down 7 times in his career. He got knocked down once against Francis Ngannou. He got knocked down once against Stephen Cunningham. And there was another fighter I believe that he got knocked down against as well, but I don't remember his name. But anyways, the point is that Tyson Fury, if there was a fault about him, at least a major fault that I would say about him, or a fault that I would say that even when he's at his best that he needs to watch out for, it's that thing that we just seen right there. Because he is a big man and because he's 6'9" with about an 85-inch arm reach, a lot of the time certain guys like that, what you'll notice especially about Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, is that sometimes when they face a smaller, lengthier guy and they get to that of the inside, they can have a little bit more trouble. Now, Tyson Fury is better, in my view, in that category than what an AJ Anthony Joshua is. And for his size, he still knows how to get against guys that are smaller in reach and try to get on the inside against them, even if he has to fight on the inside. But he has to be very careful. He has to, really try to tuck his head in there up against his opponent's shoulder more than likely. he has to try to get his head out of the way, and he has to make sure that he's not super close overall to the point to where he's going to get countered like that. Because Usyk is going to be a real deal level fighter. He's going to be debatably the most dangerous fight in Tyson Fury's career.
Good checker.
What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some bad news. Tyson Fury, WBC champion, and Oleksandr Usyk. Listen, the fight has been terminated. Canceled.
I I need to know, overall what pilot that Boxing Ego, failed for, because this motherfucker is always trying to do impressions. Like, Jesus Christ, this motherfucker is always going on this acting or rapping regime. It's like, what the fuck is going on here?
Allegedly postponed after Tyson Fury suffers a cut. And that's what I need to talk about in this video. Tyson Fury put out a press release and a statement.
Refresh your space with kitchen and bath services at NFM. From flooring, countertops, and cabinets.
Explaining, and this is on his page, WBC heavyweight champion Tyson Fury has been forced to postpone his fight with...
And let me also state this very quickly, because I'm going to get a certain amount of people saying that, oh, Tyson Fury, he's going to duck Oleksandr Usyk and all this other stuff. I've never seen Tyson Fury really duck a fighter. Now, there was one point in time where I didn't really like how the Oleksandr Usyk situation went, and it did look like it was on Tyson Fury's end in my view. But Tyson Fury has always shown me that he's eventually going to get in the ring with that guy. That's why, when it comes to fighters like Canelo or Tyson Fury, when it comes to those fighters, it's hard for me to really badly criticize them to the point overall to say that they're truly ducking somebody, because they've always shown me in the past that eventually Fury is going to get in there with Vladimir Klitschko, that he's going to get in there with Deontay Wilder, and that he's going to try to get in there with AJ Anthony Joshua. Now, I do agree that Tyson Fury, he seems a little bit rattled by that of Oleksandr Usyk, and I think he realizes that he's going to have to take this fight very seriously. I think that fight against Francis Ngannou, I think that it really gave him a slap in the face of reality, overall to really take that fight very seriously. But do I see Tyson Fury just not taking the fight altogether? No, I don't see that happening. I think that the fight is going to happen this year. I just think that more than likely that is probably going to get postponed to that of April or May. Probably not too far away, because I don't know if Usyk nor that of Tyson Fury, I don't think that they want to wait too long for this fight to happen, but we'll see what happens. And another big question also is this: how good is Tyson Fury really going to be in this fight? Because in his past couple of performances, at least against the fighters that, actually mattered, or, well, I shouldn't say Francis Ngannou, I guess, was a fighter that actually mattered, but he gave Tyson Fury a big amount of trouble when it came down to it. And Tyson Fury is also 35 years old, turning 36 this year, and on top of that, he has had some wars against Deontay Wilder, at least in some of those rounds. And at the end of the day, could it be maybe that Tyson Fury, that he is just a little bit older and wore down? Who knows?
Unified champ Oleksandr.
But it's hard to tell, because with Tyson Fury, a lot of the times he just fights to the level of his competition.
Usyk, after sustaining a freak cut during a sparring session in Riyadh. So he's in Saudi Arabia. The cut, which opened above Fury's right eye, required urgent medical attention and significant stitching, and will obviously require a period of recovery, scuppering any possibility of the fight with Oleksandr Usyk taking place 17th of February in Saudi Arabia. A spokesperson said, quote, "While this is breaking news, it is clearly a massive disappointment after the work that has been done by so many people to finally deliver a historic event of the world. Once the doctors have appraised Tyson's eye, we will have a better idea of the period of recovery needed. Once known, we will work diligently with the stakeholders and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to reschedule this fight as soon as possible, and will, of course, keep everyone updated with developments. Wouldn't be prudent. A disappointed Tyson Fury added, quote, "I am absolutely devastated after preparing for this fight for so long and being in such superb condition. I feel bad for everyone involved in this huge event, and I will work diligently towards the rescheduled date once the eye is healed." This doesn't even sound like Tyson Fury. Like the way he talks doesn't sound like him.
Right, it's probably his PR team. But once again, you can tell just with the way that Boxing Ego is talking in this video, he don't give two shits about this fight. You don't care about Tyson Fury. You don't care about Usyk. Once again, you can tell in Ego's videos, even with Canelo Alvarez, he has a little bit more fervor and he has a little bit more energy to talk about him. But the reason why he has more energy to talk about him is because he knows on a daily basis that he can try to tear him down. And the reason why there's so much energy to talk about the David Benavidez fight is because they know that David Benavidez, that, if he possibly beats Canelo Alvarez, that, he's going to be a top 10 pound per pound fighter. But the main goal of that is for David Benavidez to beat Canelo and knock him off that mountaintop for good. And then they can say about Canelo, see, Canelo was never that great in the first place. He always faces guys off their worst performance. Then every single time he faces guys at the best point in time in their career, he should have lost, like against Golovkin and Lara and blah, blah, blah. It's our bullshit. That's all they're going to say. But David Benavidez, he'll beat Canelo Alvarez, and then he'll be the next target if he ever gets debated as the number one pound per pound fighter. But the reason why they're putting so much stock in David Benavidez is that they don't ever believe that he's truly ever going to become the number one pound per pound fighter. They don't ever believe that. The reason why they're so confident in putting stock in David Benavidez is because he's basically a light heavyweight fighter. And even if he defeats Canelo Alvarez, it's like, is he really going to defeat Dimitri Bivol or that Artur Beterbiev? The LDBC and the media, they really don't think so. And that's why they have no problem with putting that amount of stock into that of David Benavidez. So once again, the LDBC and the media can tell you all this bullshit about how they just, we're here for honesty and objectivity. All that is a bunch of horse shit. They're just politicians. They're basically just on the other side.
It sounds like...
But the reason why they're not putting stock in the Oleksandr Usyk as much is because they know that if Usyk ends up defeating Tyson Fury, that he's debatably going to be the number one pound per pound fighter and the undisputed number one pound per pound fighter on certain people's list, which you could debate right there with Crawford, right there with Inoue, right there even potentially with Canelo, or Fury if he ends up winning this fight, when it comes down to it, any one of those fighters. They don't care about this fight because this is pretty much the worst nightmare for them. They didn't want, they had no idea that the two best heavyweights of this generation would be that of two Caucasian fighters. They had absolutely no idea. That's why they have no interest within that of the heavyweight division anymore.
A PR person wrote this. "I can only apologize to everyone affected, including my own team."
But like I said, David Benavidez, they're going to put stock in him because they know damn well that he's never going to be the number one pound per pound fighter. Because he's going to get lucky if he ever beats the fighters at the light heavyweight division. All right, but then all they're going to say is that, well, David Benavidez needs to become a three-weight division champion and grow up to cruiserweight and, then heavyweight and blah, blah, blah. They're just going to create all these roadblocks for him. And they know damn well as much as I do that more than likely, even with some of the talent that Benavidez has, he doesn't have that type of style to where he's probably going to become a champion all the way up to cruiserweight or to heavyweight as long as there's a decent amount of good champions there. And they expect more than likely that Benavidez is not even going to beat that of the 175-pounders. So that's the reason why they're putting so much stock in David Benavidez. All he is a means to an end.
Team Usyk, the undercard fighters, yada, 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 the fans, as well as our host and my friends in the Kingdom of Saudi. And this is the cut. This is the cut on Tyson Fury. Wow. He also put this post, and I guess this is supposed to be a current picture of him. It low-key almost looked Photoshop. I ain't gonna hold you. Right? Tyson Fury says, "Can't help getting injured in sparring, but what can I say? Usyk was in trouble. I am in fantastic shape. I will reschedule." He can't even spell the word reschedule. That's funny. "I will reschedule soon as I can. 2024, massive year for Team Gypsy King, yada, yada, yada. WBC King."
Listen to the amount of energy that he has talking about that of Tyson Fury. He can't stand Tyson Fury. And the reason why that is because every time they talk about Tyson Fury, it just reminds them of the depression that they've been going through ever since their pro-black king, the Black Panther of boxing, that of Deontay Wilder, wannabe Wakanda. That's what I'm going to start calling him, when it comes down to it. Anyways, but when it comes down to it, they've been going through such this deep depression when it comes down. And once again, that's why they don't give a shit about the heavyweight division anymore. What stock is there for them to put in? They don't give a shit about Oleksandr Usyk or Tyson Fury.
So, I mean, nobody cares about the Usyk was in trouble because you're in trouble. Because the whole boxing world is blaming you for this fight not taking place.
YouTube music is a
Well, at the end of the day, if Tyson Fury has a cut, he has a cut. However, I will state this. The question is, was there really a 100% official cut, or maybe was it done on purpose? It appears that the cut is official, but maybe, possibly was it done on purpose, or was it done to the point overall to where maybe someone was told, to go a little bit harder in sparring, and maybe Tyson Fury would suffer a cut or an injury or something like that, because apparently there was rumors that Tyson Fury was getting handled in that sparring. That being said, there's always rumors about something, overall about someone getting handled in sparring, or, especially Tyson Fury. I hear these rumors all the time about Dillian White, about how he allegedly knocked Tyson Fury out. Remember that? Remember when Dante's Boxing Nation and Eagle and Aki TV, they were saying all this shit about how Fury was avoiding that of Dillian White, even though they were perfectly okay with Wilder avoiding that Dillian White fight for 3 fucking years. But it is what it is. Anyways, but when it came down to it, and don't get me wrong, if White wanted to fight bad enough, he could have fought Luis Ortiz. But isn't it so interesting how they had these standards about if you want to fight Wilder, fight, Luis Ortiz, White's a bum, but then as soon as Fury becomes the champion, Fury, you need to fight White, there's rumors that you're scared of him and that he knocked you out. All this are bullshit. Like, it's no offense, but the LDBC and the media are so full of shit.
music app that lets you choose what mood fits you best. So you can jam your way through those.
Now, in the clip, that's allegedly the clip in which Tyson Fury
overall, he looked a little bit too heavy there, overall for my liking. But he probably thought that the size was going to help him. If that photo was real, overall of him, slimming down, which I assume more than likely that it was, when it came down to it, one does have to wonder, is that going to help Tyson Fury or is that going to go against him? I think it's always great to be in shape, and I think that he probably needs to be a bit lighter than what he was for the Ngannou fight. But of course, one would assume that if you're going to beat Oleksandr Usyk and if you're going to have the size advantage, this is what a Tyson Fury had. Wouldn't you want to keep the size advantage to kind of, be a little bit more brawling at certain times, or to really use your size and your power and your strength against him, or at least your pure size? It's going to be interesting. So if he loses too much, weight, is it going to affect him negatively or is it going to affect him positively? We'll see.
There's only one Tyson, right? That's allegedly the clip where the cut opened up. And I would be remiss to not mention this. Tyson Fury had a nasty cut when he fought Otto Wallin. So if it's on the same eye, as of me recording the video, I kind of expected stuff like this, so I'm not as disappointed as a lot of people, which we'll get into. But I haven't even...
Right, so what is basically Boxing Ego trying to say? He's trying to say that Tyson Fury is a shady character. And once again, and I'm not saying that Tyson Fury has had a squeaky clean record. Of course, we all know that there was the nandrolone or the steroid, allegations all the way back, with the Christian Hammer fight when it came down to it. Many people have told me that, that was in the Klitschko fight. No, it was not in the Klitschko fight. It was in the Christian Hammer fight. But is it very possible that he's on steroids? It's very possible. As I've already stated, I believe that a lot of these boxers are on steroids. I think that everyone in the snack program especially is on steroids, including Terrence Bud Crawford, Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson, Caleb Plant, Demetrius Bubu Andrade. Anyone who's involved with the snack program, I think, is on steroids. But once again, it's just very interesting that the LDBC and the media, there's no mention of it, or at least very little bit of it. It's very interesting how a former top-of-the-line, drug supplier with that of Victor Conti is almost never mentioned. Never mentioned. But Tyson Fury and some of these other guys like Canelo, they're always mentioned with the LDBC and the media for steroids. And don't get me wrong, somewhat deservingly so. Especially Canelo, because Canelo was caught red-handed on steroids. But it's just very interesting.
But this is just typical Tyson Fury type of stuff. to be honest. So it's not surprising to me. In the words of Nate Diaz, I'm not surprised, I'm not surprised at all, one bit.
Nate Diaz, by the way, who's probably one of the more overrated fighters within that of the UFC's history, in my view. And don't get me wrong, he's still a decently, great fighter. He got some very good wins in his career. But there's a reason why Nate, a lot of the times, never won the title. Or never won the title throughout his career. And a lot of his bigger fights ended up getting dominated.
So, not really shocking. Tyson Fury does this. And I haven't even bothered to look up to see if it's the same eye and did the math because I don't really care.
Of course you don't care. Isn't it very interesting? Once again, the reason why Boxing Ego doesn't care, and he can tell you overall that he's like, oh, I'm tired of Tyson Fury shenanigans and all sort of stuff. It isn't really that. If this were against a fighter, if this were against Jared Anderson, Boxing Ego would care a lot more. Once again, he has no motivation to talk about this subject because there's no motivation just for him to see two Caucasian fighters be debatably the best heavyweight overall of their era. There's no motivation for any of these channels to really talk about this subject. Once again, it just goes to show you overall what their true motivations actually are.
Oh, the fight's canceled, it's canceled. It is what it is. But I would venture to say that could be the same eye from the fight with Otto Vailane, because
and he didn't even bother to do his research. Once again, Boxing Ego is a guy that allegedly prides himself in his research. When it comes to Errol Spence Jr. with an eye injury, or when it comes to other fighters with an alleged injury, just Teofimo Lopez the other day, he did all this research. But then when it comes to Tyson Fury, he didn't care. You know why he didn't care? Because he knows damn well that Tyson Fury might retire as the best heavyweight of his generation. And if he ends up defeating Oleksandr Usyk, winning all the titles, and then defeating that of Anthony Joshua, there's going to be a lot of people debating that Tyson Fury is the greatest heavyweight of all time. And rightfully so. And certain people, they'll say that, oh, Fury, I can't have him there. Like Boxing Ego, I've heard him say all these stupid-ass standards, especially when it comes to fighters that he doesn't want to rank highly about why they're not all-time greats. Oh, Canelo, he moves in a certain way, so I can't have him over Marco Antonio Barrera or Eric Morales. All this are stupid bullshit, And the reason why they say that, I can't have him over Eric Morales or Marco Antonio Barrera is because basically they want to set the standard as low as possible. They know damn well that Canelo's above those fighters. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, Canelo overall is an all-time great Mexican fighter, debatably the greatest who's ever came out of Mexico. Period. It is what it is. People can like it, they can not like it, but that's the facts of the matter. All right? And I see this with a lot of fighters. I see it, where people say, oh, well, Fury wouldn't stand a chance against other heavyweights. Crawford wouldn't stand a chance against past welterweights. Canelo wouldn't beat Oscar De La Hoya. All sort of bullshit. Well, is it really overall? Is that really the facts of the matter? Or are you just can't let go of your idols overall from other generations? Or you don't like that fighter and you don't want them to surpass idols of the past. Let's be real.
That was a nasty cut versus Otto Vailane. And
and that's why Ego, he comes up with these stupid ass standards, not just for Canelo, but Fury, who's an undefeated fighter, and won every belt of his era, basically. Just not all at once, but he's won every single belt within that heavyweight division, and he was able to completely embarrass Vladimir Klitschko when he was a top 3 pound-per-pound fighter on everybody's list at the time, and hadn't lost in about 10 to 11 years when it came down to Fury was able to embarrass him, and that was really the first mega fight of his career. Then he came back, after a long layoff, and isn't it so funny, by the way, guys? Isn't it so funny that the LDBC and new media, and I'm not saying that the steroid allegations that they shouldn't be brought up, they should always be brought up, but isn't it so funny how Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, they were singing Tyson Fury's praises and trying to trash Anthony Joshua and saying that these are the 2 best heavyweights of this era and blah, blah, blah. You know why they were saying that? Because they were trying to basically set up the Tyson Fury win. They thought that Fury was not going to be as good as what he was. And then when Tyson Fury showed that he still did have something left in his career, then they said, oh shit, now we have to do damage control with this guy. We have to tear this guy down because now we created a monster overall that we have to try to destroy.
PN helped Tyson Fury in that particular fight because they ran to his corner and said...
But, once again, I've also heard a bunch of excuses from Ego saying that I can't have Fury as the greatest because he's been knocked down several times and all that stuff. Right, so what you're telling me is this. If Tyson Fury ends up beating Oleksandr Usyk in that of Anthony Joshua, he can't debatably be the greatest heavyweight of all time because he got knocked down several times in his career. Right, but he won all the big fights of his career. So if that ends up happening, yes, he'll have a debate there. At the end of the day, Muhammad Ali lost certain fights in his career. And if you take a look at him, people can take a look at Fury and say that he has certain flaws. And sure, I'm sure that he does. But at the end of the day, when we take a look at Ali, Lennox Lewis, they were not flawless. At the end of the day, Ali got hit a little bit too much because at times, even though many people, pride him on his defense, the truth of the matter is that Ali is not close to the greatest defensive fighter of all time. He's one of the greatest, overall athletes of all time. That really was a big part of the reason why he was such a great fighter. Now, eventually, he probably got a little bit greater defensively, and he was not a bad defensive fighter. But he's not a Floyd Mayweather. He's not a Pernell Sweepy Whitaker. Take a look at his Joe Frazier fight. He got hit way, way, way too much in that fight. Way too much in that fight. You can see other fights where Muhammad Ali got hit, overall a little bit too much, for his fights. It just happens. It is what it is. Lennox Lewis, for example. Lennox Lewis ended up getting knocked stone cold out by two people that would not be remembered as all-time great heavyweights, period. Against two guys that were probably, I wouldn't say journeymen, but certainly guys that I would not say, are all-time great heavyweight fighters. He got knocked out cold by two of those guys. So you're telling me that if Fury ends up defeating Usyk and then Anthony Joshua, or even just Oleksandr Usyk, that he can't be remembered as great as them, even with an undefeated record, just because he got knocked down several times in his career, even though in the biggest fights of his career, he always showed up dominant usually, and usually put on a great performance? Please.
It was due to an accidental clash of heads.
That's like me saying stupid shit about Floyd Mayweather Jr. overall. And he's saying that, I can never compare him to Sugar Ray Leonard because Sugar Ray Leonard had more knockouts. All those stupid shit. It's like, please. And I understand, the knockdown argument. I understand it to a degree because basically what you're saying is that Fury is not as skilled as those guys when it comes down to, if you want to say that. But at the end of the day, Fury at his best has shown that he has the all-around complete game. He's great on the inside. He's great on the outside. He can box going forward. He can box going backwards. He's a very intelligent fighter. Now, is there some flaws in his style? Sure. But name me one heavyweight fighter that you've seen that has just been completely flawless. It's just not going to happen. I can tell you flaws about all the all-time great heavyweight fighters, including Lennox Lewis, including Ali, including Marciano, including some of the other guys. It is what it is.
They're going to stop the fight, which notified Tyson Fury that the fight could get stopped and he would lose because he had been losing to that point in the fight. So Tyson Fury always has some stuff going on. The reason why it's not surprising is because Tyson Fury always has these miraculous injuries and reasons he needs to pull out of fights. He failed a drug test with nandrolone, said he ate wild boar bacon or wild boar meat, wild boar testes, right? And it's just always...
And I do agree with that. I'm not a believer in any of these excuses about eating wild boar meat or kangaroo meat or horse meat, the regular excuses that I hear, or the Mexican meat, whatever it is. I don't believe any of that. I didn't believe it when Canelo said it. I didn't believe it when Fury said it. I didn't believe it when any of those fighters said it. So more than likely, yes, Fury was probably on something. And it's very plausible that he's probably still on something. But so are a lot of these fighters.
Marred with some type of controversy when we're talking about Tyson Fury. I really feel bad for Usyk. Usyk looked like he was in killer shape. I know Usyk is a true professional. He says that Tyson Fury likes to run his mouth. Usyk says he likes to do his talking in the ring. And I can respect that. I do.
Well, let me tell you what, Mr. Oleksandr Usyk, and I respect Usyk as a fighter, but let me also tell you what, Tyson Fury does his talking in the ring as well. And a lot of the times he does a great job trying to get into the head of certain fighters. However, I'm not quite sure if Fury is going to be as successful with Oleksandr Usyk. This almost reminds me a little bit of the McGregor versus Khabib fight. However, if both of these fighters were at their best, I would have to favor Fury just because of his combined skill set and his combined, structure, his combined size. But at the end of the day, it almost does kind of remind me of that where Fury, he can be a great trash talker and he's usually very good in getting into the head of his opponents. But he's facing a guy that's a cold-blooded killer. And he's facing a guy that is going to be very hard to get into that guy's head, and he may not be as successful. Now, Conor McGregor, he was able to somewhat get into Khabib Nurmagomedov's head, as we've seen after the fight. Khabib pretty much exploded, but it did not affect Khabib's performance whatsoever.
like trash talk, but not everyone's a natural born trash talker. So if it's not your thing, don't pretend to be, because that just looks very forced and it just doesn't look natural. Tyson Fury, you see this picture. He fought Francis Ngannou in his last fight, who's a UFC fighter, and I thought he lost. I thought
Of course you do. Of course you do. And don't get me wrong, if you had Francis Ngannou winning that fight, that's up to you, because I had Fury personally winning that fight, but I had it by 1 point. The thing is about Boxing Ego and the LDBC, let's be real, the pro-black cult. They love to overall say that, oh, people claim this fight is a robbery and it wasn't really a robbery, blah, 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 right? But then when it comes to fighters they can give two shits about, then they have no problem calling it a robbery. When it came to Jamel Charlo versus Brian Castano, a fight that probably was not the best decision and should have went to Brian Castano, the first time around, then Ego has no problem with it being a draw. When it came to Wilder versus Fury in the first fight, which was a terrible decision, worst decision I probably had seen within the past several years, Ego has no problem with it being a draw. But, Fury versus Ngannou, I thought he lost. It was a robbery. They should have gave it to Ngannou. Lomachenko versus Jermaine Ortiz. Lomachenko really lost that fight. Gennady Golovkin really should have lost to Danny Jacobs. This is why you can't trust the LDBC and new media, because all they are, once again, they're politicians. That's all they are. And they believe in a lot of what they say. Don't get me wrong. Don't get it twisted. But at the end of the day, what's really worse? Someone overall that's full of shit and doesn't believe in what they say, but they're spreading propaganda and lies? Or someone that does believe in what they say and they don't know what the fuck they're talking about, but they're so overall, once again, unconscious to the fact that they're so biased and over emotional in a lot of their category, in a lot of their, talks. It just is what it is. I mean, it's really about the same.
I legit thought the MMA fighter beat him. He also got dropped at least one time, but I think it was even 2 times, but they didn't count 2.
No, it wasn't 2 times, but, that's going to be the narrative overall for you to spread, so you can try to allege that Fury's been getting away with shit for years and all this other bullshit. And really what this boils down to is that, the pro-black cult of the LDBC and new media, they're still very pissed off that their boy Deontay Wilder got his ass kicked against Tyson Fury. They're very depressed.
Gave it credit. So the Usyk fight was definitely a dangerous fight. If you could have a guy who's not even of your sport and he's coming into the fray as a new boxer and he's dropping you, I don't know, because Usyk is a gold medalist and he finds a way to win, and he's fought guys who are stronger than Tyson Fury, in my opinion, like Daniel Dubois and Anthony Joshua.
Right, well, punching power and strength is 2 completely different categories. That's why a lot of these people, when they took a look at Fury, including Boxing Ego, they said, oh, all of a sudden Fury had this super explosive power, basically alleging that he did something with his gloves. It's not that Fury has ever had super explosive power, but at the end of the day, he's always had enough punching power. Like, people act like Tyson Fury, before he fought Wilder, didn't have like 20 knockouts or something like that, or like 19 knockouts in like 29 fights. Like, these idiots, when it comes down to it, they just have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. But Usyk, he's probably fought fighters that have had more punching power. Like Anthony Joshua, for example. I wouldn't say Danny Dubois has more punching power than that of Tyson Fury. I would say that Fury debatably has more punching power than Dubois, at least at his best. But, at the end of the day, Fury as an all-around person, he's very strong. He's 260 to 280 pounds, overall, and he doesn't look that muscular. But at the end of the day, he's a very strong man.
And he fought Joshua twice. So, like 24.
And, even against Francis Ngannou, where he was having a little bit more trouble with the clinches in that fight, he still was able to move around Ngannou, a fighter that is used to clinches and, overall within that grappling. Tyson Fury is a dude to where he's very powerful. Don't get me wrong, he's not the guy that, always has a one-shot knockout power, but he has A-minus level power, and on top of that, with his size and his all-around strength, he looks, a little bit lardy, and he looks overall a little bit flabby, and he is. But at the end of the day, don't underestimate Tyson Fury at his best. He has very great stamina at his best. He has very high boxing IQ. And he's a guy that has enough punching power and way more than enough strength to usually beat his opponents.
Rounds of Joshua.
But once again, I already, and once again, look out for this. Because whoever the winner is of this fight, they're just basically going to caveat it and basically say that if Usyk beats Fury, oh, well, he beat a guy that was always overrated and always a cheater. We've been waiting for him to get exposed, but how can I say that he's the number one pound-for-pound fighter when he beat a fraud? You know, that's all they're going to say with Usyk. And if Fury ends up winning the fight, then they're just going to say overall that Usyk was way smaller and overall this sort of stuff. So neither of these fighters, in their opinion, are going to be ranked as the number one pound-for-pound fighter anyway. That's all they're going to say.
Fights. Fury, he's a different bag, so I'm not saying he couldn't win. But in terms of power, I think Joshua and Dubois, they are hitting harder than Tyson Fury. They're saying the fight is going to be rescheduled, but to me, seeing is believing. It's almost like Ryan Garcia.
Right, but when has Tyson Fury ever shown that he's going to be a Ryan Garcia or a Gervonta Tank Davis, where he just talks a bunch of shit and doesn't get in the ring finally with that great contender? I mean, don't get me wrong, it isn't like Tyson Fury has the most, extensive resume for a heavyweight ever. You know, he is missing some bigger names, but at the end of the day, he has fought two of the better names of his generation, Vladimir Klitschko and Deontay Wilder. And he also got in the ring with Dillian White. And now he is about to get in the ring with Oleksandr Usyk. Now, the rematch didn't happen with Klitschko, but at the end of the day, he fought Deontay Wilder 3 times. They were bitching and moaning about overall how Fury was trying to escape, allegedly, the third fight with Wilder. Then eventually it happened, and they were saying that he was avoiding it because it was going to end up that much more different because he wasn't allowed to cheat. All this other bullshit. And then he gets his ass kicked even worse in the third fight.
See ya.
And they're still not happy. They're still bitching about it to this day. Or as Deontay Wilder would say, till this day.
Announcing all of his fights before they happen. At this point, show me. Tyson Fury, the mistake the Kingdom made is banking on a person who has a tattered history like Tyson Fury.
Right, but how much of a tattered history does Tyson Fury really have? I mean, we can bring up the steroid allegations when it comes down to, we can say that, overall that he's kind of had, interesting tactics in the past, especially when it comes to, and who knows, maybe the injuries and the sicknesses have been, real. Who knows? They could also be a tactic. I wouldn't be surprised. But at the end of the day, what Ego is really referring to is that he still does not get over that Deontay Wilder loss, and he's still very pissed off, and he's still alleging that Fury did some with the gloves, and all this other stupid bullshit. None of the stuff that actually ever had any actual concrete hard evidence.
Funny, and not only doing that, but offering him so much money, and it's always some BS. Like, it's funny to me, Deontay the Bronze Bomber Wilder from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, he told the whole world who Tyson Fury is, right?
Why the hell should we give a fuck about what Deontay Wilder says? No offense, but that dude is a pea brain. it is what it is. That dude overall has the fucking brain the size of a goddamn particle. It is what it is. That motherfucker, they keep saying alleging that Wilder showed us who Fury really was. All these things, allegedly with Fury being controversial. A lot of these things overall happened even before the Wilder fight. Notice that none of these things ever popped up until Tyson Fury ended up winning against Deontay Wilder. Then all of a sudden all these allegations ended up coming out. Ain't that a bitch? Isn't that interesting?
Said Tyson Fury is not to be trusted. I think Tyson Fury cheated. Look, so they did this elaborate...
But once again, Deontay Wilder don't even believe that shit about the gloves. Deontay Wilder don't even believe that shit, because if you believe that shit, why the hell would you fire your trainer that stopped the fight, but you don't fire the trainer that was the main one looking over the gloves and overall that of the hand wraps? So you fired that of Mark Brilliant, the boy that stopped overall, the guy, the fucking fight to save your life, but you don't fire the boy overall in that of JD's when it comes out. You don't fire that boy when it comes out. You don't fire him, that guy. You don't fire him in your corner, the guy that was mainly watching over the gloves and the hand wraps. Please, Deontay Wilder don't even believe that shit. Tyson Fury asked that same exact question that I had in the press conference, and Deontay Wilder grew silent because he don't believe that shit.
Cinematic commercial, Ring of Fire, and the Saudis and His Excellency spending all this money promoting the fight, and then now all this is potentially for nothing. Because who knows how long. Fury does weird stuff. So Fury, 1 minute he'll say, oh, I'm retired.
Fury definitely overall seems to be a little bit back and forth. He's always kind of been a character like that. But at the end of the day, Tyson Fury has also always shown that he's willing to get in the ring, usually at least overall with that of the bigger names. At least in terms of the greatest of his generation.
He does things like that, these erratic moves and things like that. So that's, look, he says you're getting smashed and all that, but he can't even make it to the fight. The other thing is this: Tyson Fury, even though in the clip that I showed you at the beginning, he had headgear, he does spar a lot with no headgear. As you guys can see from various sparring pictures, right? Where Tyson Fury, he sometimes just doesn't use, look, his opponent got headgear and he doesn't. So even though he had a headgear, it looks like on the clip that they're saying is it, I don't know. I don't really, me personally, I don't really trust nothing coming from the Fury side. Look, so he has a ton of times where he does spar when he has a black eye. If you look at this picture, I remember he had a black eye in that particular sparring. So who knows if Fury's taking care of himself? Who knows if he's on something? It's hard to tell with Fury because, again, look.
Well, once again, it's going to be very interesting to see that fight because Fury, I can't really tell if he's getting a little bit older because he's turning 36 years old this year, and he has been through, a couple of wars with Deontay Wilder. I can't really tell if it's that or, if he's just kind of fighting to the level of his competition, because I don't think he took Wilder as seriously as what he should have in the third fight. I think that's why he got knocked down a couple times. I don't think he took Ngannou as seriously as what he probably should have. But who knows? He could just be getting a little bit older. Who knows? So we'll see what happens.
Other picture of him sparring with no headgear in the past. So I don't think he wears headgear all the time. Now, ironically enough, Tyson Fury, there were rumors from the UK, right? And you can find the videos on YouTube. But there are rumors that Tyson Fury was dropped by that cruiserweight. Jai.
There absolutely was. And who knows? This could be a tactic maybe for Tyson Fury to recuperate a little bit and to be a little bit more prepared and ready for that of the Oleksandr Usyk fight. It certainly could be that.
Jay, right? There were rumors that sparring partners were getting the best of Tyson Fury.
But once again, that also being said, I've heard rumors about multiple fighters or champions, not looking great in sparring and all sort of stuff, especially Fury. And then he ends up looking perfectly fine for the fight. So once again, I don't really know what exactly to believe.
And then now he has this miraculous cut. So again, this is not surprising at all if you follow the story, but it's unfortunate to people who were expecting an undisputed fight and to the Saudis.
Isn't it interesting that Boxing Ego said overall that it's very unfortunate to the people who were looking to an undisputed fight? He doesn't say to us boxing fans, or he said it's very unfortunate because I was looking forward to this fight, or we were looking forward to this fight. Once again, Boxing Ego has no give a shit, no care about this fight whatsoever, because he does not have any stock in that of Oleksandr Usyk or Tyson Fury. He doesn't have any stock in either of them. He doesn't care about them because they're not Black American fighters. So they can give two shits who ends up winning this fight. I mean, of course, they'll still have their propaganda. All they're going to say, once again, is that if Usyk ends up winning this fight, that, he beat a guy that was overrated and was a cheater and all sort of stuff. So how can we really say that Usyk is that good? Because Fury was never really that good in the first place. Be prepared for that. That's all they're going to say if Usyk wins that fight. And if Fury ends up winning that fight, then they're just going to say, oh, well, if he were smaller, he wouldn't be that good. He had a major weight advantage. And he is going to have a major weight advantage, against Usyk. But at the end of the day, Usyk is still one of the best fighters in the world. He was able to dominate Anthony Joshua in 2 fights, or at least embarrass him, somewhat relatively well. 8 rounds to 4 in my view, at the very least for Usyk in both of those fights, if not 9 rounds to 3 in the first one. So at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, that's all they're going to say. They're not going to give, the great amount of credit over to either Fury or Usyk because they don't have that much stock in this fight. So watch out for that. That's exactly what they're going to say.
They're spending so much money trying to make this a reality and bring entertainment to the world and to their kingdom, and it's always something. Tyson Fury, Wilder told you who Tyson Fury is. And even if...
Right, so why the hell should we believe over what that idiot says? Isn't Ego always a guy that says that, I don't give in to excuses and all sort of stuff? Right, well, Deontay Wilder made about 3,700 of them, and Deontay Wilder, apparently he was going through this injustice and all sort of shit. Get the fuck out of here.
Let's say this cut is 100% authentic, right? And you believe Tyson Fury you believe the cut, all these types of things. The reality is Tyson Fury is the boy who cried wolf. So it's hard to believe, even if this is true, he has a history of this type of behavior. So it's like, even when it's real, even when the boy really does see a wolf, no one believes him because it's always something.
I will say this. It is possible that this is a tactic in order for Tyson Fury to have more preparation time. But who knows?
Wilder rematch, he tried to get out of it. And even though he was contracted, Wilder had to go through a mediation and all these types of things in order to make the fight. Then,
Yes, and you guys tried to allege that Tyson Fury was scared of Deontay Wilder, even though he just wanted to fight AJ Anthony Joshua, the fight that everyone wanted to see, because there was no reason for a Deontay Wilder trilogy after Fury whooped his ass that bad when it came down to it. And then they said that, oh, Fury's afraid of Wilder, it's going to end up differently. Even Ego predicted Deontay Wilder to beat Fury, even though he knew damn well Wilder wasn't going to win that fight. But he predicted overall Wilder to win that fight because he was so in love with Deontay Wilder, because at the end of the day, once again, he leads with his emotions in certain fights. That's why you can't always trust Ego. There's a certain amount of times where he'll bring up logical points, but a lot of the times also, he's led by his ego, he's led by his emotions, and he's led overall by his irrationality. It just is what it is.
there was at one point the fight was supposed to happen in the
And
summer.
his pro-racial agenda.
In July, Tyson Fury said he had the Rona, and then he was seen in casinos gambling, right? So I thought you were sick with the Rona. Everyone was masked up. He has no mask, and he's in Las Vegas at the casino and at the car dealership. It doesn't make sense. You see right here.
Well, gambling overall at the casino, and I understand what Ego is saying, and that could be very relevant. It could overall be that Fury maybe was faking it, maybe so he'd have more preparation time. Who knows? But at the end of the day, the fight ended up happening a few months later on anyway, so it's really not that big of a deal.
Hennessy Sports, who used to manage Fury, provided a statement on Fury pulling out of the fight. Tyson has this week been declared medically unfit to fight. Medical specialists have advised the condition is too severe to allow him to participate in a rematch, and he will require treatment going back in the ring. Tyson Fury versus Vladimir Klitschko canceled. So this is not the first time that this has happened. You guys see Ring TV. Tyson Fury pulls out of July 9th rematch with Vladimir Klitschko. Tyson Fury pulls out of Klitschko rematch again. So none of this is new. That's why I'm not surprised. Let me know what you guys think. Will Usyk continue to fight? They're talking about Usyk could fight Philip Ergovich, but he wanted to fight Tyson Fury and try to become undisputed. So let me know what you guys think. Bad news.
Bad news overall for the people that actually wanted to see this fight. You really don't give a shit, Mr. Ego, because you really don't care who wins this fight. You're not going to rank them as the number one pound-for-pound fighter anyway when it comes down to it, but you know that you'll have to hear those narratives. That's why you're not excited for this fight, because there's no other option. Whoever wins this fight, there's going to be narratives along the way that you're going to have to deal with that you don't want to have to deal with. It's either going to be that Usyk is debatably the greatest cruiserweight of all time, and debatably the greatest heavyweight of all time, and, overall definitely the undisputed number one pound-for-pound fighter of the era, or that Fury is the greatest heavyweight of all time, and you're not going to want to deal with either of those. So that's the reason why he's not excited for this fight. He could give two shits about this fight. That's why his energy was very low in this video. That's why he didn't do any research whatsoever, overall, like he allegedly, usually does. And on top of that, why he said that for the people who wanted to see this fight, he don't want to see this fight. He don't give two shits. But, it is what it is. Anyways, that's pretty much about it for today. But they've been very depressed, and that's why, the heavyweight division a few years ago, it was popping and all this other stuff. When Deontay Wilder was on top, but ever since Deontay Wilder has been at the bottom, and hasn't been shit, when it comes down to it, then all of a sudden it's whack and nothing's been going on, blah, blah, blah. All this other bullshit, when it comes down to it. But that's why even, when Deontay Wilder fought in that card, Boxing Ego did a fucking live stream for Deontay Wilder's fight, and commented on Wilder's fight. Didn't even have the goal to stream after Wilder lost that fight. Didn't even stream Anthony Joshua's fight. So that goes to tell you once again that they're still going through a major depression after Deontay Wilder lost those fights, and recently after he lost to Joseph Parker. They're majorly depressed and they haven't gotten over it, and they never will. but it is what it is. And that's why you're not supposed to be a fan, especially one that leads with your pro-racial agendas, because that's never going to help you. A lot of people think overall that it's a positive, but it's really more of a negative. Now, you can point out double standards and all this other stuff, but these guys are very clearly racial fanboys. It just is what it is. But anyways, that's pretty much about it for today. But once again, heed my warning. They will not give super great credit to either fighter that ends up winning the fight. And if they will be debatably, as the #1 pound-for-pound fighter, either one of them, when it comes down to it, and they're going to say that they're overhyped and that overall, they're just trying to disrespect black fighters, blah, blah, blah. The same shit that they always do. Even though Fury and Oleksandr Usyk, they very clearly have a great case for debatably being the #1 pound-for-pound fighter, especially whoever wins this fight. So we'll see. But anyways, that's pretty much about it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you all later.